One of the top Minecraft posts this week was Theory Mojang is planning a Sky update. As people have noticed, many of the features included in the April Fool's snapshot are quite complex and would have taken some serious development time to add. Far too much work for a simple joke. Many people are of the belief that Mojang uses these joke snapshots to test experimental features to see how the community reacts, and then they mention that they seem to have a common theme, being things you might expect to find in the sky. A block that makes other blocks float, a block that can be placed in the air itself, and a grappling hook allowing greater mobility, especially when there's islands around. This is a fun theory that thousands of people agree with, judging by the post, but I actually agree more with Nephelangelo, who says actually it makes more sense for an end update, and I agree. The end is where you find all of the crazy transport methods, from the ender pearls to the chorus fruits to even the elytra, the most OP transport. If you were going to find flotators and grappling hooks, then I think that would be the logical place. However, for those who think this took a lot of time, King B Dogs actually responded to this directly, saying that it actually didn't. These snapshots are done in horribly hacky, fast ways in a single platform. They're easy to do and fast to do because we can cut all the corners we want to, quality be damned. Also, April Fool's snapshots are open for anyone to contribute to for fun, and they aren't indicative of any plans we have for future updates. Sometimes some fun technical ideas like commands are so fun, the team decides to put them back in the engine for real, but that's about it. In other words, saying that the only reason that these could be made so quickly is because they were making it just on Java, is because it was filled with bugs, they didn't have to worry about future-proofing the content or coming back to it, and interestingly basically said, yeah, this was entirely a joke. Most of the development work they did for this is scrapped and is never going to be seen again, and this is indicative of what we saw with previous year's updates. However, I do think that Flaming Steve 5883 is right though when he says we need more of the why not type stuff from Mojang, because the April Fool snapshot shows that adding 100 times the content with 100 times less polish is actually more charming to a lot of players, and although I don't think they can do this for every update, what they could do, for example, is use this as a way to test 100 different ideas, because they take 100 times less each, and then work on all of the polish and the parity and the bug fixing later for the most popular of them. In fact, I think that really the best time to do this would be snapshots and previews, but then too many people see that and take it as an early version of the next update as opposed to a development version. They get upset when features are renamed or removed. It's a big problem we have in the Minecraft community. So what if we take a big event that Minecraft has every year that already gets some criticism, the mob vote? It gets criticism because we just vote on vague concepts that they won't flesh out until after it wins, which means you don't actually know what you're voting on until too late. What if they replace that with one of these April Fool's style snapshots where anyone who wants to work on something at Mojang can make their fun feature, and then we can vote between the most interesting of those to be added to the game? I mean, if you were to take the April Fool's snapshot, for example, you could work out which of the features in that update is the very best between, say, the flotato, the grappling hook, and a new biome, but at the same time you could test concepts like, as Tixencraft says, the second piece of text lore in the game, the potato M. You could test out the value of, say, edible armor, or whether people would actually want a green wood in Minecraft. You could use it as a test bed for all sorts of fun concepts, and if you do it early enough in the snapshot or preview process, perhaps before the update's even being announced, it would help people feel like they are sort of contributing towards the update process, which, in my opinion, the community should always be at least a small part of, right? Which is why we have the mob vote at all. But what if it was tied into the rest of the update? That would be a serious improvement and feel like the community is actually helping to feel out and improve some of the features in the update. Maybe you can see a reason that shouldn't exist, but speaking of not existing, I think now is the time to quickly hold my hands up in the air. This is something I like to do, is actually issue corrections when I say something that I later am not sure I agree with, and I made a video this week talking about the 10 best features from the April Fool snapshot, and I said that the flotator is one of the very, very best, but the problem is there is no way to add it to the game where it wouldn't be OP, and there are a few comments that really kind of changed my mind on this. This one from Buplo says the flotator could easily be put in survival by just giving it a block limit per flotator and making it run on some kind of fuel that runs out quickly. I do think that if you were to use the wind charges, or if you were to use breeze rods, and you were to give it a really strict block limit, like 50, and I don't think you could even improve that with multiple flotators, then I think it would be a very fair and balanced item, which you could then obviously remove those limits for creative and make it insanely fun for maps. However, I'm also under no illusion that they could easily add this to the game anytime they feel like. There's a lot of comments like this one saying that somehow it makes perfectly good sense that some of the best features they've come up with are only jokes to them, because they think that the features they see in this update are fully featured because you can play with them and they technically work. But my answer to those people is this. So here we have a bottom half slab, here we have a top half slab, and what happens when they meet? Honestly though, not to beat a dead horse too hard, I think it's worth saying this incompleteness definitely applies to most of the things you'll find in any April Fool's update, and a great example of this can be told with just these two comments. The first one says, 8 days ago, best update ever, but I wish we'd get a new boss or this frying table, maybe in the future. I know there is no frying table, just saying. It was something Mojang hinted at a long time ago, but it was most likely a joke, and then wow, so that's what the frying table was 3 days ago. However, interestingly, I was unsure which of these two things it was. Were they working on this April Fool's as early as January, or is the frying table in the April Fool's as a reference to the community response to that funny joke? And it seems as though we have a Minecraft developer response, because someone here says, you are very wrong. The frying table leak came around 3 months ago, saying that their theory is the first one of those two things. And then there was a response from Ninetail Fox saying, leak? You've got to be kidding. They said it was an unrelated tab that person had open. The frying table in the snapshot is more than likely a joke over a notable overreaction of some people. And Cornerhard MC, who currently is the head of Realms, actually said, yep, this is the true theory. And that is very interesting for me to learn, that even as early as January, there weren't any features actually being planned, and the frying table only made its way into the Poison Potato snapshot as a fun joke from Mojang about that community response. And it's interesting because the frying table is another interesting example of a feature where you have to ask, what would it actually do to add to the game, even in your wildest dreams where they could code it and make it parity and make it bug-free. But an interesting case to me is the fact that the vast majority of the update is like that, but there's one exception of a feature they could add tomorrow in its current form, and it would be perfect, and that is the Flotato. I had so much fun doing parkour with the Flotato. It's an MLG water bucket saver, it's a creative building tool, it's a nice looking block in its own right. I love the Flotato, and I have no idea why we don't have it in Minecraft right now. They struck lightning by accident here, and I really hope that we see some version of this, because it's just oh so satisfying to do parkour in midair, and unlike the grappling hook or the Flotato or anything else, it doesn't need any tweaks to be perfect in my opinion. The only thing holding it back is balance, but that is a key part of an update, I guess we should say. Speaking of updates, I want to talk about 1.21.0.20. It is the brand new preview that released this week, and I got an interesting comment from Gillahermy Cat1 who says, please put preview on the title, you almost gave me a heart attack. And I do want to discuss, because this title was clearly talking about preview. If you ever are curious, 1.21.0 would be a regular update, and 1.21.0.20 is the preview. This is slightly more understandable with, say, 1.20.80.20 versus 1.20.80. If there are 4 sets of numbers in a update, in other words, it is always a preview or beta, and if there are 3 sets of numbers, then you know it's a regular Minecraft Bedrock update. This is actually a point of confusion, because I know some people will look at that title and say, oh, I guess that's 1.21 out now, which is why the thumbnail says this, by the way, first 1.21 preview, but also it is something to keep in mind, and hopefully informing you now will help you be more aware in the future, because I don't blame you for not understanding Minecraft Bedrock's update system. I made an entire video about the update numbers, and some people still watch it and say, well, what about this one? And it is a little bit confusing in its own way, but one of the interesting things about this preview, 1.21.0.20, which by the way hints we're on the last little stretch until 1.21 comes out, is the fact that in this preview, for the first time you can see your Minecraft stats, which have previously only been displayed on the Xbox network. You can see them in game now, and so I showed this off, and then got this comment from King Knight 5947, Toycat, you have nearly 11,000 hours on Minecraft, are you okay? And the answer is, don't worry. If you think 11,000 hours is the total time I played Minecraft, it isn't actually including all of the console edition time from 2012 to 2017, and it's also not including the time I spend on other accounts or playing the Java edition of the game, so 11,000 is probably drastically undercounting it. I think the more serious answer to this though is, how do you possibly play 11,000 hours of any game? And I think that is a fairly common accomplishment. I don't think I'm alone in saying that like hyperfixating on one game is the standard for me. I like the idea of being someone who plays a new game every day or something like that, but ultimately you get comfort from playing the same game again and again, and also because I have a career around playing Minecraft, I think it is important that I actually play the game that I talk about. So many YouTubers get really burned out and start hating the game that they play. I genuinely love Minecraft even after playing it for all these years, and that's why I still do it on the channel, and I didn't make the quick exit into Fortnite or Roblox or whatever else other YouTubers try to do, and there is no shame in not liking a game anymore after 10 years, but I think there's a real beauty in the game and in the fact that after all these years I'm still interested. When they come out with new features, I'm actually excited to use them in my new world. Like, I don't know, the Trial Chamber, destroying one of those in 1.21, gonna be a lot of fun. Hardcore just came out in the previews this week, and I started a brand new Hardcore world. I'm so excited to come back to it on Wednesday when they actually fix the vaults, for example. Even tomorrow I'm going to do something really silly, but I'm going to speedrun a perma-locked, perma-death hardcore world. I want to see how fast I can die in it. That is actually real exciting to me. If you're curious, I'm going to be streaming it. I'm going to be doing a fun thing where the stream title is decided by whoever tips the highest, just as one of those funny streams we like to do every few months. I think it'll be a great time, by the way, and if you want to join me, you can just go to the live section of my YouTube channel. That's where you can see a lot of the past live streams, or the unlisted live streams playlist. You can see all the other ones there too. It's very handy in my opinion. Speaking of handy, Blackfame 208 has a different view on the latest preview, which is that if trial chambers are supposed to be this hard to find structure, then how does Mojang expect the average player to encounter enough trial spawners to get a heavy core in a Minecraft playthrough? And honestly, the answer to this, just to be entirely frank, is that one, the mace is meant to be very rare. It's not meant to be a beginning game item. It's meant to be easier to get a netherite sword than a mace. I think they've succeeded in that. However, it's not that you'd have to go 10,000 blocks to get enough trial chambers to get enough ominous vaults, but instead the odds are currently about 1 in 16 every time you use an ominous vault of getting a heavy core, which means probably 2 trial chambers should be enough, which means that, yeah, getting a mace seed should be surprisingly easy, but again, that's something I'm currently going to be focusing on. I think you might be able to tell my voice is dying. I'm going to be doing a seed Sunday, checking out as many seeds as I can, because it's not a very voice intensive thing. It's very much a keyboard and mouse intensive thing, and then I'm going to be resting it until tomorrow, don't worry. But I have one last question that came up today, and it's this one from Ignatius1078, an unrelated question: why do people accept the creeper, which destroys your base, but hate an annoying flying mob, the phantom? And there's 28 replies. I haven't read any of them, I'll be honest with you, but I will say I think this proves the bias towards the status quo. There is something called recency bias, where we look at things that are very recent as either being much better or much worse than they actually are. When changes happen, they feel much more dramatic than some of the most significant things, which were changes but before your time, and this is why we don't appreciate that we have access to literally an infinite amount of energy anytime we want in the form of electricity. We have access to a variety of food that would make a medieval king, a richest person in the world of that time, cry because of just how much better it is now for even a poor person than the richest people then, and the reason we don't care about it is because it isn't very recent. And so the same is true for Minecraft. The things that happened in the very beginning, some of them are very annoying, but they're accepted as part of the game. We grew to love them, but then everything after, say, 2013 or so is a new part of Minecraft. Even horses still feel fairly new, even though they're going to be 11 years old this July, and that is because there is a certain time at which you just accept things as the status quo, and everything after that becomes new and therefore much more hotly contested. This is why when you're young, you want the world to change in every single way, and when you get older, you want to conserve the things which have already existed. It's a weird part of human psychology, but do you know what else is a weird part of human psychology? When you say like the video, people kind of glaze over it, but when you say, hey, did you know when you subscribe to the channel, it will help me impress my grandma more. She doesn't know what YouTube is, but she knows the number of followers, and every time it gets bigger, she's really impressed. And so if you want me to get a job well done from my elderly family relatives, then make sure that you consider subscribing, perhaps with notifications turned on, so I can present them with a slightly bigger number next Christmas. It'll be real good. Anyway, speaking of real good, hope you have a very good weekend, because I'll see you tomorrow for Seed Sunday, if my voice doesn't entirely die by then. Goodbye.